Hi, everyone. It's Ryan Fowler here with my good friends Jordan Kurtz and Tim Costello. Inner Game Group Live every Saturday at this time, unless we're traveling or something. But we're all here today. Really good show today. British psychiatrist who's written several best-selling books. We're going to go into the chimp brain, the computer brain, the human side of our brain. Is going to be a really interesting discussion. It's going to get, some of it is familiar ground, but he's using terminology that maybe casts a new light on things. But also, he's a psychiatrist and a more traditional therapist, but he does bring up some good points. We talk a lot about rewiring your subconscious. You still have to learn how to regulate and manage the different behaviors coming from the different that are influenced by the different parts of our brain. We will never say that you should never do any type of traditional therapy. I contend that for many people, traditional therapy by itself is sadly incomplete and woefully incomplete, yet it does have its uses. So we're going to tie the two together. What we do with what this gentleman is talking about and does today, and dive into how the chimp brain works, the computer brain, the human brain, all those three parts. But before we get into the clip and that, Jordan, welcome to the show. Tim, welcome to the show. Introduce yourselves, my friends.
I am a sick Jordan Kurtz at the moment. Still, it's been 3 weeks, but I'm on antibiotics, so hopefully the next few days I feel better. When my voice isn't hoarse, I am a hypnotist like these two. I help people. I've been trying to come up with a tagline recently, and I think I've gone with I help people permanently overcome deep-rooted anxiety, anger, fear, and shame. I think I got some of those messed up out of order.
That's catchy.
Using hypnosis. So yeah, I've been workshopping some marketing terms recently. So, and posting on Instagram. So thanks for having me.
All right. Jordan, we'll take you in any condition. I'm glad that you're getting a little bit better.
Don't die.
Sad to hear that you were sick so long. That's for sure.
Yeah, that sucks.
So I'm Tim Costello, and I do what Jordan and Ryan do, and we do what most hypnotists want to do but don't succeed at. And what is it we do? We do a root cause analysis into the things that trouble you: anxiety, procrastination, depression, addiction, etc. And we do a root cause to find what's causing that behavior, because that is maladaptive behavior. It doesn't serve you. It only holds you back. So what we do is release those traumas, rewire your subconscious, what we'll talk about a lot today. And then all of a sudden you literally are a different person, and you really start discovering your true, authentic personality.
All right. Thank you, Tim. And by the way, I did a search on both Grok 4 and or a query on Grok 4 and ChatGPT. And what's really interesting is they both told me that hypnotherapy is growing by 30% a year, and within 10 years is estimated to go from 15 billion to over $200 billion industry. So we are the early adopters, and that's happening because people are starting to realize, oh, holy crap, this stuff is real. And you guys go on Grok 4, ChatGPT, ask it yourself. How quickly is hypnotherapy growing? How quickly will it grow over the next 10 years or 5 years or whatever? You'll see too, people are catching on, and people are increasingly distrusting the mental health system, the healthcare system in general. And, they have, the beer bug to thank for that, among other things, among a lot of corruption scandals, things like that coming out. But hypnotherapy is set to basically 10x or more in the next 10 years. So we're excited to be along for the ride and for you guys to come along with us in this venture. So we have this great clip. And Jordan, do you want to go ahead and cue it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw that just this last week, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool.
Did you want to preamble what he's about to talk about at all, Ryan?
Okay, so this gentleman is a highly decorated British psychiatrist. He has several best-selling books. You can, if I don't have it in, I'll put the video clip in. I can't remember whether I put it in the description. I'll do it right after the show if I haven't. If you go to the beginning of the show, it shows all of his best-selling books. He talks about the three types of the three parts of our brain that determine how we behave in different ways and what those three parts are. So he's about to explain that. So let's play that, dive in. We'll take it from there.
Very black and white and simplified. It's complex, but in a nutshell, there are three systems in your head, keeping it very simple. It's much more complex than that, but simplifying it. One of the systems will help you think very logically, and I call that the human system. It thinks logically, but it's very slow, which means if you operate with a human, your body and your reflexes will slow down because you're analyzing as you go along, and it slows the system, so you're more pensive. So that's really good in certain circumstances, but it's awful in fast-moving sports. So if he goes into that, it's very likely he'll slow down. It's not going to help him. If he goes into the second system, which we'll probably come back to, the Chimp system, this is a primitive system which thinks. It's more than just a reaction, an impulsive system. It thinks. When it moves, it can move at speed, but it thinks emotionally. So this is the part of his brain that will think thoughts that are not helpful, such as, should I go faster at this point? And then it may make a decision to go faster and burn out. So that would be crazy. Finally, the third system is a computer. It just needs programming. The key to the computer, particularly in sports, is it moves so fast. It's approximately 20 times quicker than the human system to execute, and it's about 4 times quicker than the Chimp system. So if you get into computer mode, particularly in fast-moving sports, it doesn't analyze or think. It's automatic thinking. So it works with keys like a computer.
Is that the autopilot?
Exactly. It's an autopilot. Okay. You're programmed. It's a behavior that's programmed in. But,
so when I came down the stairs to see you today, I know the route. I've done it 100 times. Yeah. So I was holding my iPad, but I was on autopilot.
Yeah.
As I came down the stairs and walked.
Your body knows what to do. You don't need to think. Whereas if we put an obstacle in there, then it will stop.
Okay.
Because it doesn't know what to do. It's not programmed.
Okay.
But you'll have to think then.
Is the computer where our habit system?
It's habit formation, yes. All three do work together.
Yeah.
But the computer is one that just blots out the other two, or if they go silent, it can operate. And it's the computer that drives us to work, or like you say, it goes on a familiar track. But it can also generate automatic thinking.
Okay.
So when you meet somebody, your Chimp may start to think, is this person going to like me? Am I going to come across okay? Or it could give you anything. Whereas the computer system is automatic. So if you've programmed a belief that everybody loves me, then it's much more likely when you meet people, you're going to be very open, and your body language will be positive. If you have, I'm being severe, obviously. If you have a belief nobody likes me, or I'm not as good as everyone else, which unfortunately a lot of computers are programmed with that, then whenever you meet someone, you're on edge. And you're very conscious about what you're saying and doing because you feared that it's going to be the truth, that they don't like you, and you're trying to overcome that belief, which is so unhelpful. Now, that I call the gremlin. But these beliefs are programmed into us, and we hold thousands of beliefs, often without knowing what they are.
Okay, we're going to come back to that because I want to talk about the gremlin, the trauma, and where all of those beliefs come from and which ones we can resolve. But
let's hang on there for a second.
Yeah. So Chris was asking in my...
Pause. Yep.
So this is interesting how he's breaking this up into 3. If there were 3, the father of modern psychotherapy and analysis would have said, unless you make the unconscious like your computer and make it conscious, then you'll suspect it'll just be fate, right?
Man,
in reality,
you mastered that Carl Jung quote.
That's right.
Go ahead.
But the interesting thing is that you have a subconscious, which Jung calls the unconscious, because it's not cognitive in nature. It's not you thinking about where you're going to eat for dinner or something like that. But that thing contains programs. Now, some of those programs are just how you unlock the door of your car or how you turn the car right after you've decided to go right. And then there are those programs that are running that are based upon how you feel. And when outside external influences match one of those programs, it's going to generate an emotional response that he calls the chimp brain, right? It's going to be that emotional type of thing. And then out comes your actions from that, either shying away, cuddling up, running away, becoming anxious, depressed, whatever it is. So he has divided the subconscious sort of into two pieces, but we generally are only concerned about, as hypnotists, the emotional response, because we don't control the memory. We don't control how you're walking up and down stairs, but we certainly want to understand the emotional response, find those programs and eliminate them and rewire. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so I want to explain why he calls it the chimp brain. And the gremlin, by the way, I think you could call the bad chimp.
Yeah.
Because it's just two sides of the same thing. Automated processes, he said habits come from that. You know, you do something over and over and then you just do it automatically. We're not as concerned with that, because if there's no emotional component to what you're doing, simple repetition will rewire that. You know, so I used to have this example because I would tell people about the automated, you know, explain our subconscious and say, hey, we have parts where I'm used to folding my arms this way. It's very easy. It's natural. I do it without thinking. I do it the other way, and it's weird. And when I first started doing it, going the other way, it was really awkward because I wasn't used to doing it, and I had to think about it like with my computer brain. The other way was easy. Well, now after giving this example enough times, it doesn't matter. You know, now I've adapted the habit of doing it both ways, so it just doesn't matter. And so when you have automated responses you want to change, you use a little persistence, and there's no resistance there. You just do it, and your brain automatically gets used to it over time, and it becomes normal, and it's no sweat. It's easy. But the chimp brain is there's a reason we have this chimp brain, and it's the quick, you know, so the computer brain's automatic. The chimp brain is designed to operate much faster than our computer brain, but it does make decisions, you know, according to situations based on these beliefs that are in us. I know why this guy calls this chimp brain, because if you look at all the animal brains and you compare many animal brains to the human brain, the most glaring difference is we have this prefrontal cortex, which is the human. And that's why he calls our analytical, logical, rational brain, he calls that the human part of us, because it's the most striking difference between our brain and all other animal brains is this human part, this prefrontal cortex, this logical part is way bigger than it is in pretty much any animal. And so the theory psychologists, psychiatrists, evolutionary psychology has is that when we were chimps, you know, assuming we evolved from them, which is debatable, but assuming we did, then the most prominent decision-making part of our brain back when we were chimps was what's called the limbic system, this emotional part of our brain. As we evolved into humans, this prefrontal cortex, the logical part, got way bigger. So he's saying that's a human part. The emotional part is a chimp part, because you go back, you know, 2 million years and we were chimps or whatever. And then that was most predominant. And then the computer is just like code in, you know, code in, code out, just like boom, boom, boom. So I know why he's saying terms the way he's saying them. And Steve Bartlett picked up on it right away, or maybe talked to him before. The gremlin is, I guess you could say, the bad chimp, but it's really just trauma. It's subconscious trauma that gets in and screws everything up. And it is possible, it doesn't happen for most people, but it's possible to have a very healthy upbringing for, a small portion of people, most people are in between. It's a bell curve. You have a few people very emotionally healthy. You have a few people, unfortunately, ended up on Epstein Island. That's a bad joke, but or just had a lot of trauma as a kid. And then you have a bunch of people in the middle with a kind of a medium amount of trauma. Subconscious trauma is a gremlin because it leads us to maladaptive emotions that cause all sorts of problems. And so that's what the gremlin is. The gremlin is just the part of the chimp trauma that gives us maladaptive emotions, and it makes people behave in all sorts of, you could say, in some ways evil. Again, it's different from person to person. Everyone has different types of trauma. A few people have very little. Like Tim, you don't have a lot of trauma. You never, I'm not saying you haven't had challenges in life, but you grew up really well adjusted. And I think part of that is your physiology. You just have a certain personality type, and you had great parents and you had a great healthy upbringing. So you're one of those healthy people. But that's what the three parts are to me. And the gremlin is kind of the dark side of the chimp. So,
and I would agree.
I wanted, he also said something that stood out to me, which was this idea that if you think people are going to love you, you'll go into interactions being a lot more open and a lot more like warm. Then if you think everybody's going to hate you, you're probably going to go in a lot more closed off, a lot more, protected.
And the first part attracts the like. And so that's when two people, healthy people, get together in a relationship.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And so, and because typically, because you can't always control who's going to come into your life. You might, and you'll naturally going to encounter some people who don't like you and some people who do, but you find that the people that that you keep around in your life are the people that tend to actually love you versus hate you, because that's what you find most congruent. I think people will stay in abusive or toxic relationships or family systems or workplace environments because they feel like that's all they deserve. But if you actually feel like you deserve better, if you feel like you deserve to be treated well, and not just deserve, but like you're worthy of that, then you'll move towards, your behaviors naturally tilt towards the things you feel like you're worthy towards.
Hey, Jordan, can I make a distinction? Good point, by the way, about deserving. Many people will say out loud, I don't deserve this, or I deserve better, but they won't achieve it because deep down inside their core beliefs, they believe that they don't deserve better.
Yeah.
And that's really key. What
we do a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and I hear people all the time, I don't deserve this. Well, potentially, if it's just, a natural disaster coming through, nobody deserves that. But if it is personality based or people based or behavioral based, you may actually deserve it because that's what you're seeking. Now, you don't realize that you're seeking it, but you are deep down, because your core beliefs believe that either you're not good enough or you're not safe, or it could be you're just used to that environment and you feel comfortable there. So it's very complex, and it's not one size fits all, but there is a reason why.
I think people tend to use the word deserve and worthy kind of interchangeably. They say, I don't deserve something when that's how they feel. I'm just thinking, I can think of a lot of examples in music where the artist is sort of pining over some individual, like, oh, I don't deserve them. And they think that's kind of endearing. And I find that to be it's like the opposite of endearing. I don't want to be with somebody who feels like they're not worthy of me. It's kind of like, it's a very strange dynamic. It's like me telling, how are you guys going to feel if I say, oh man, I don't feel like I deserve to be on this show, Ryan and Tim. I feel like I'm unworthy to be on like, you're going to kind of feel, or like you wouldn't go to your boss and be like, man, I really don't feel worthy to have this job. Like it creates I think the other
But
person
there's
feels
people
really
who feel that
awkward
way
and
though.
scary.
You know it. You
There's
know it.
executives
Oh yeah, they definitely
with imposter
That's true, that's
syndrome,
true.
and they're like, man, I don't
Yeah.
deserve to be here. That's actually not uncommon for high level executives.
That's true. That's true.
I will say you see this very strikingly in relationships, with members of the opposite sex. If you see someone who really wants a monogamous relationship with an emotionally, I'm not talking about delusional people thinking they deserve a billionaire or a supermodel or whatever. They really want a good, loving relationship. They want monogamy. And of course, there's temporary states. You can be single temporarily, and there's nothing wrong with your subconscious. But if you really want that close, healthy, loving, monogamous relationship, and then you constantly get with toxic people, then, there are people who say, oh, I deserve this. I'm not going to settle, for the wrong guy or whatever. Like women will say that, and then they get with the wrong guy over and over and over. Well, what's going on? Well, their subconscious is way off base compared to their conscious mind. And so many people, I mean, really Socrates quote, you kind of took the famous Carl Jung quote earlier, Tim, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. There's also a Socrates quote, to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. And you see so many people, they go through life and they're not getting what they want. Things are getting screwed up. And they may externalize it. They may blame everyone but them that they're not in the relationship they want, or that they don't have the job they want. They play the victim. They're angry at the world, etc. And they don't understand why they're not getting where they want. These people don't even know what's in them that is directing them. They don't even know what is in their chimp brain. It's the chimp brain that, when it's filled with dysfunctional, trauma-based beliefs, that's the part of the brain that like leads people to do all the horrible decisions, become alcoholics, drug addicts, bad relationship after bad relationship, stuck in poverty mindset, depressed all the time, anxious all the time, whatever it is. It's this chimp brain. And if just get on Instagram.
Well,
and you will just constantly see these people blaming everyone around them, playing the victim, all of this. The issue is not, there's plenty of evil and dysfunction in the outside world, but the issue is in the outside world. If over and over and over again, they're getting the same result that they consciously don't want, it's because their subconscious, that chimp, the gremlin part of that chimp brain is causing problems. And until you understand, that puts you on step one of the staircase leading you out of that mess, is become aware, oh, it's something in me that keeps putting me in this situation I don't want to be in. Go ahead.
Well, let's play that one out a little bit, Ryan. The word authenticity is tossed around a lot, especially on the TikTok, the Instagrams, all that different kind of stuff, where people are saying, this is my authentic self. They misuse the word because they don't understand the word, and they believe that dysfunctional behavior is normal. It is their normal, but it's not authentic. So if you really want to escape, as Ryan and Jordan have mentioned, the dysfunction or maladaptive behavior, you have to look inward to find your authentic self. The only way you can do that is to clear the trauma, because the trauma is covering up your authentic self.
I'm wondering if you think like the body positivity movement is a good example of this.
Absolutely.
Or like, I'm 350 pounds and I'm just going to embrace that. The truth is, the reason they're 350 pounds is because they have pain in them, and they medicate that pain with food and then in grossly overweight. So yes, there is a difference from saying, I'm going to stay stuck in my wounds and accept that and want everyone else to accept it too. That is not authenticity. Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely. It's a dysfunctional use of the word because it makes themselves feel better to use that word. And now they're justifying their maladaptive behavior.
And now I don't have to work on myself or
that's right.
Et cetera. So
they hide from themselves.
Yeah, here's how you can tell if you're authentic or not. Let's say you are a person who's 350 pounds. If you're really honest with yourself, do you want to weigh that much or would you rather be healthy? Like if you really just have a contemplative moment and say, well, how do I really feel? Do I really like being in this situation? No. Okay, well then just accepting it is not being authentic because you're ignoring what you really want.
Correct.
That's not authenticity. That's I'm going to try and accept where I am and pretend that's where I want to be. You're lying to yourself.
Yes, they have co-opted the word.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very good points.
Do you want to address Miguel's comment here? I've been experiencing many rejections from women. It affects my mental being and it makes me sad, anxious. What do you recommend to not fall into this unhealthy mental state and keep my positive vibe? Well, you said fall into this mental health. And well, I guess it depends on like where the pain of rejection comes from. Do you feel anxious before talking to them? Always you said it, many rejections, so it seems like you're experiencing the anxiety, like the painful feelings after the fact.
This is very, very, very common for many men.
Yes.
And we help men with this all day, every day. Just watch I think the most recent video is still the Mike Horton interview where he used our program to overcome this issue. So go to the video section of this channel and watch the top video where it says real stories about overcoming anxiety. I think that's in the video section. I think it's the most recent one still. We're about to post a bunch of new content, but a gentleman used our program and overcame exactly that. Watch that video and then do what he did. But go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like, I'm curious when people say, well, what do you recommend to fix this specific subconscious issue? It's like, well, the recommendation is almost always going to be some form of hypnosis. But I think what you're really asking is like helping you identify what that subconscious issue is. And so if you're experiencing it after the fact, it's usually, well, it could be in any number of things. It could be fear of judgment. It could be fear that you're just not worthy to pursue what you want. It could be fear of like you're internally just not worthy of getting what you want, so it could be any number of things.
If a woman rejects me, it means I'm a reject. It means I'm a loser.
It could be that. Be that too. So it really just analyze. You have to kind of analyze your own feelings and go like, well, what specifically is the pain that I'm feeling after I get rejected or after I get rejected several times? So just I kind of mediate on that. And,
if I could throw down there a little bit.
Yeah.
Miguel, we don't know you. We don't know what your background is. We don't understand. I mean, it could be that you're 4'11" with blonde hair and they really want a 5'9" brown haired man. Right. So that's not a rejection, just a selection. So we're not saying that's you, but the first thing I would do is just go down the subconscious trauma tree. And that is 1, do you truly love yourself? Are you happy with who you are? Are you getting what you want out of life besides being rejected by women? Do you even feel that you can get what you want? Right? Or do you belong to a group of people, even yourself? I mean, there's a number of things we could go through, all these types of subconscious trauma that would cause women to reject you. And again, they're not rejecting you so much. They may just be rejecting your approach or your vibe or something like that. So we don't know, can't tell. But if you look at the bottom of the screen there, you're going to see RyanFowlerSOS or school.com, school.com/RyanFowlerSOS-7231. that's the first step you take. Get in there and start figuring out what you need. And it's all free to get going. So it costs you nothing.
Yeah, I would actually say, Miguel, you want to do I offer 30-minute free consults over Zoom. So if you go down to the description underneath this video and expand that, there's a link for a free 30-minute consult with me. You can also talk to Jordan or Tim. They're hypnotherapists as well. I have a Calendly link you can schedule. I don't know if you guys have that for you. I know you have your website and they can contact you. But the link to schedule with me directly in the description. Or again, these guys as well. Talk to us and we'll get more clarity exactly what it is. And we already have a pretty good idea, but there is some nuance for each individual. It's there's a whole bunch of stuff to cover. We've covered this in the past. There's many reasons for getting rejected by women. Number one is women are picky. And number two, women's attraction, unless you are upfront a very attractive man, then their attraction grows slowly over time. And if you're in this situation, you're approaching women never met you before, again, unless you're like 6'2" total Chad, their attraction grows over time. That's how it is most of the time for most women. So there is a natural, even like the guys who are the most skilled, who teach other guys to approach girls and get dates and all of that. And even if they do go around at 6'3", super good looking, they're going to get rejected 90% of the time. And they are top tier, like top tier pickup artists, right? They'll still get rejected 90% of the time. Your average guy probably gets rejected 97% of the time, and that's normal. What's going on is, again, there are things you can do to increase your odds, but what I'm seeing here is it affects your mental being, makes you sad and anxious. That is the chimp brain. That's the gremlin. And I know one guy, Jordan knows him too. He's kind of a really low-key dating coach, and he's approached over 10,000 women, like just constantly goes up to women and, hey, you want a date or just whatever. Like he's very direct. He's quick. He only succeeds about 1% of the time, but he's just this machine where he doesn't care. He just goes up. He doesn't care. Well, why can he do that and you don't? Well, it's because his chimp has one belief system and yours has another. That's it. Well, the good news is we can literally rewire that, usually in one sitting. So go to my the main YouTube channel this show is on. Watch the Mike H interview. I think it's a very top one in the video section. It's the one about real stories, resolving anxiety. Watch that. Book a 30-minute consult with me, no charge. Again, you can go to these guys too. And but we also have these resources. You see there's a dating, overcome your insecurities, true confidence, with the I think it says there the approach anxiety. Is that in there in this banner, or do we have the wrong banner up?
No, you've got the dating trauma clearing course thing.
Webinars.
Crush your anxiety, approaching women.
We actually have a program just for that, and it comes with group coaching, self-hypnosis. There's other options too. Crush your anxiety, approaching women, and gain true dating confidence. There's a program just for you. Start out with the free 30-minute consult. It's one-on-one. Your issue is very common, and I've helped at least 100 guys, probably 200-300 with this specific issue. It's very, very, very solvable. For 95% of guys, you can overcome that in 1 or 2 sessions or even on your own with self-hypnosis. So you're in the right place, and we'd be happy to help. Anything to add, guys?
Nope, you're on the money right there.
Any one of us 3 can help you with that.
Yeah. All right. You want to go back to the video here? All right. Let's do it.
Well, he was saying, how do I silence my human?
Oh, is this? Do you want to skip ahead anywhere?
No, I want to say one last thing. Miguel, there are things you can do to make yourself more attractive to women, and I'm happy to help you with that. I've been through my own journey where I was just constantly rejected by women. I'm 51 now, but trust me, I've been through all of this. I used to be total incel, I guess you could say. But this gentleman I'm talking to you about, who's approached 10,000 women, it's less than 1% he has success with, and yet he's had a ton of success. So we'll get you there, man. The guy I'm thinking of, who Jordan knows, is a nerdy engineer. Like, he's not an attractive dude at all, and he has tons of success. So there's absolutely hope for you. Go ahead, guys. Yeah, just keep playing. You don't need to skip around. Okay. I want to get to the 26-minute mark and just straight through.
Well, that might be a tall order, Ryan.
Where are we at right now?
17 minutes.
We'll get there. Play on a 1 1/4 speed.
Okay, sure.
Systems from analyzing and thinking, which is their job. And how do I go into computer mode so I forget where I am and just get on with the process? And he did this nicely. Ronnie Sullivan wasn't in that place. And again, Ronnie's given me permission. He kicks in, tell everybody everything, but I won't tell you everything. A lot of stuff.
Take it down to one.
He's a great guy. We've been friends for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's a privilege to work with him. He's one of the hardest working of my students. And he's saying to me all the time, he rings regularly. So I've spoken to him already yesterday. So we talk. But the key to Ronnie was his chimp was so active in being anxious about how he came across, whether he'd perform well, what people would say, how well his rivals might be doing. It was just giving him what is natural and healthy, but extremely unhelpful. And that was creating very anxious moments. So before I met him, I had a look because I didn't know anything about Ronnie or snooker. And I went online to say, can I see some YouTubes of him? And I saw him hitting the white ball with a cue stick. And I thought, well, obviously that's not the right thing to be doing. And I saw him walk out of a competition, which distressed me. You know, I didn't know the guy, but I thought, wow, the emotion that guy was getting at that point must have been so unpleasant that partway through a World Championships competition, he just suddenly stopped, froze, shook hands and walked out. And I just thought, you know, when I saw that, I definitely want to help this man. And we went back and actually looked at that incident and I said, what was it? And I love this. And he challenged me at the beginning, but after about an hour of chatting, he said, I get this. Because on that incident, he said to me, there was this voice sort of saying, just go out of here. You don't have to be. I don't want to be here. And he said, and I'm saying to myself, I want to play snooker. I just want to enjoy the game. And this voice got more strong, saying, right, hit the cue. And he said, I hit the cue ball. And he said, I'm walking out. And the voice is still going, right, just keep walking. We're out of here. I can't deal with this. And he said, now I get it. There were two of me. There was me trying to do what I want. And there's this voice, which I couldn't manage at all. And I couldn't stop it doing what it wanted to do. So once I explained the model to him, and the model isn't for everyone. It's for those who can relate to it. He said, I get this because my human system, my chimp system are so different. They're poles apart. So he's worked for 10 years saying, how do I recognize and manage this chimp system? So when he came to me, it wasn't just in snooker, his whole life. He could see that his emotions were getting the better of him. And it was a whole system that was emotionally driven. And it was almost paranoid about things. It was defensive. It was making him feel vulnerable. It was giving him anxiety. And it's a really powerful system. So it varies in person to person. Some people have very simple chimp systems, which are not that strong. And others, most of us, have chimp systems we really recognize they're there and they mean business. And they give us emotions which drive us to do things, make decisions, have behaviors that often are destructive, not just unconstructive.
So in Ronnie's case, what do you do?
Right. We started the game to recognize the systems and say, right, let's just start. Because again, I tried to take people through a series of steps rather than just throw things at them. And so the very first step is let's define who you are. And let's define what your chimp is like. So we recognize, because everyone's unique. So I can't tell you who you are, nor what your system is. I'll give you general things like this system is impulsive. It doesn't think of consequence. It's quite emotionally driven. When we're tired, it takes over. And people generally start, I get that. So neuroscientifically, that's what happens in the brain. So how do we start to recognize the difference? And then when we do, let's start simply to say, what is it that's prodding my chimp into action? And this is where it gets a little more complex. The chimp system can just react. So if I, for example, you're friends with me and one day I just shout at you for some reason and get annoyed, and your chimp system is most likely going to shout back. But if it believes I'm not as good as other people or I can't cope, it's likely to go quiet and feel very intimidated and hurt. So again, we have to work out what your chimp system is doing. But on the other hand, the chimp system, the neurosciences, it always turns to the computer and says, what beliefs do I hold before I make my decision? And this happens in a fifth of a second. So let's say you're about to shout back at me and your chimp looks into the computer, and one of your beliefs, I don't know what they are, might be, if you shout back at people, it makes you look foolish.
Yeah, well, I can tell you what my beliefs are,
right,
and I can tell you where they came from. So my parents my parents had a very loud shouting relationship. I've never shouted in my life because of that, because I learned firsthand.
So what's your belief?
My belief is that shouting achieves nothing. It's harmful for both parties. You lose when you do it. You're not heard when you do it.
No, you stop there so I can do that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So just to try and just steady with this is what you're saying to me is I absolutely resonate with these beliefs. They're not something I've given you, which is a danger. So if I said to you, we want to try and stop you shouting, it never gets you anywhere. You have to resonate with that. That's why I can't do it. You have to say to me, Steve, that really resonates.
I've got to have evidence.
Okay,
Yes.
pause just
And you
real
have to
quick.
believe this. And you can't brainwash.
Just a quick comment. So what this gentleman is doing and what Steve Bartlett, the host here, he has made certain subconscious beliefs conscious. So whether or not he knows what this belief system is, he's going to behave this way. And so when psychology initially developed, you had Freud and then right after him, Carl Jung. And they did psychoanalysis, which is figuring out what are your subconscious beliefs that drive 95% of our behavior. Like this chimp, for most people, like he said, is very powerful. It literally directs 90 to 95% of our behavior. That's the science. And right now they're saying, okay, I know what the beliefs in my subconscious are that lead me to behave a certain way. And they're describing the chimp. Unfortunately, conventional psychotherapy will then just manage that. And the big difference is we actually put in a different chimp. we kick out the bad chimp and put in a good one. It's really just a transformation. It's changing beliefs, but that's what they're talking about here. They're making you can consciously become aware of your subconscious beliefs that are tied to certain emotions that drive your behavior. That's what they're talking about. But we rewire and change that. You'll see later on, they just manage that. That's conventional therapy, and conventional therapy has to get with the program. But they are, because what we're doing is growing at 30% a year and is going to be 10 times bigger within 10 years. And at that point, we'll actually eclipse the conventional mainstream.
So what's interesting is the word resonate.
Yeah.
That's a trigger, right? I recognize it. I see the pattern. I'm triggered. I don't want to do that. I would imagine that all that shouting back and forth probably helps Stephen feel very unsafe.
Yeah.
Insecure. So he doesn't want to feel that way. That's what I got.
Yeah. Yeah. There may be a safety issue in addition to the belief he's telling you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At 7 to believing. You've got to experience it and say, this rings true to me. So once you've worked that out and you reinforced it, which it sounds like you've done through your life,
Oh God, yeah.
then you don't shout. And it's not that you can't, it's your computer stopping you, because the chimp has to listen to those beliefs. So before it does anything, it can't move.
So let's look at the opposite then. If someone had, if someone grew up in a household where they were shouting and they for whatever reason gained the evidence that it was an effective way to communicate or whatever, how does someone go about unprogramming that belief?
Well, it's not my job to do that.
Okay.
So I'll explain what I mean. I agree with you.
Stop just real quick.
It's not
Did
very
you see
helpful.
that? Did you hear that?
At all.
Just pause. He said it's not my job to reprogram.
That's great.
It should be. He should know how to do that. We know how to do that. We'll keep going.
And I agree. And I had a thought about him saying when people are shouting, but I think it's good that Stephen says, I don't shout at people because I don't feel like that's the right thing to do. But I've seen many instances where people, if that's the only model of behavior you have, like when you're stressed or when you're in times of high anxiety or something, you may revert back to those models if that's all you have. So I'm really curious if he's always like that, or if doesn't want to be like that, but if he's under high stress, he might revert to that.
He sounds like he's always like that.
Yeah, it's possibly.
Yeah,
possibly.
But he could maybe be shutting down instead of yelling.
Yeah. So that's a good point. That his default is not necessarily not to yell, but it's more or less to kind of cover up, kind of like
clamp it
turtle
in.
shell, kind of.
Yeah.
protect
So
themselves.
you can have the exact same situation, and one person will feel and behave one way, and another person will have a different emotion and behave differently.
Absolutely.
What is driving that? Subconscious belief.
That's it.
A subconscious program is a belief formed in childhood. Things happen. My mom and dad were yelling, and when that happened, as a kid, I haven't experienced this before. I'm trying to figure this out. So I draw this conclusion, which is the belief he just stated. He came to that conclusion as a child that became a subconscious program tied to a feeling. When he sees people shouting, I guarantee you, when he sees that, it's triggering some sort of emotion in him.
I'd agree.
And that's all subconscious. They later on, we won't discuss it today. Later on, they go into talking about how these beliefs form in childhood and whatnot, which is really our stomping ground. We talk about that all day, every day. It's very fundamental. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
However, if somebody, that's not my job to tell people. I say to them, why would you hold that belief? And I do have people who say it because people don't listen unless you shout. Some people, you have to shout at them. And so I draw breath because obviously I'm not agreeing, but I'm not going to try and change their mind. I'm going to challenge them and say, can we challenge that to make sure that's what you believe? But if they're insistent, there are certain people in my life that shouting works for. It's not for me to say that. What I would do then is say, right, let's say it does work. That's in the short term. So now we're in the devil in the detail. Our chimp system is working in the short term. It does not look at long-term consequence. So when your human now comes in, your human system,
I love that right there.
Rationality. What's the long-term
true.
consequence of
Yeah, I
shouting?
love that.
Now it may be with
I
person
even
A.
clipped that and sent that to you guys, where that chimp brain is only worried about right now.
Yeah.
It's not worried about 45 minutes from now or 2 days from now. It's going to trigger right now and have you react to that trigger.
Yeah. And how we explain it with our clients is things happen as a child. When you're born in this world, you don't know anything. So you're trying to figure everything out as a baby and as a child and as an adolescent. And things happen and we form, just so we have certainty, we form beliefs. This thing happened. Well, what does it mean? And, Steve Bartlett was saying, well, when people yell, it's not good because it doesn't get anyone anywhere, doesn't solve any problems. It only creates more problems. Therefore, shouting is wrong and I shouldn't shout. So that's his feeling. That's his belief. There's some sort of feeling tied to that.
Yep.
And what they're talking about here is how our chimp brain works. Is something happens that's a match for a belief you formed in childhood, and there's a feeling tied to that belief. So when this thing in the outside world happens, it's a pattern match for the belief in you. The feeling tied to that belief, boom, gets triggered, and then you just act automatically based on that. So that is the chimp brain. Or you might be able to control your emotions, but some emotions very difficult, and some emotions you can't control. Sometimes people fly into rage, or people get, like our friend Miguel earlier. Miguel, you have some sort of painful belief. When a woman rejects me, it means XYZ, I'm not good enough or whatever. And there's a painful feeling tied to that. And then you go out, you approach a few women, they reject you, which is exceedingly common. And that you have a belief, when they reject me means I'm not good enough. And there's a sad feeling tied to that belief. They reject you, pattern match, boom, sad feeling gets tied. It gets spiked. If you have anxiety approaching women, that's because your chimp brain is saying, hey, there's pain here. She's probably going to reject you, and you're going to feel terrible. So I'm going to give you anxiety so you don't even approach her, so you avoid that pain. That's what anxiety is.
Yep.
And so the big thing this guy doesn't know, which is what conventional therapy, where it's at, and honestly, it is losing ground as we gain ground. It's being phased out, whether they know it or not. They should ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT knows. You guys can ask ChatGPT. You can Google, is hypnosis backed by science? Google it. Do the research. We got science on our side. We're on the cutting edge. They're the old guard. We're the new guard. So these feelings, this guy thinks you just have to manage it. He's like, I can't change it. It's not my job to reprogram it. Yeah, you can. You can fix it. You can usually one session, not one thing. I usually fix 3 or 4.
Yep.
3 or 4 beliefs, not one. Permanently, 60 to 100% resolved for 90+% of my clients. That's what I do. And Tim does it, and Jordan does it too. Yeah. Anyways, moving on.
There's no long-term consequence. And you think, it doesn't make any difference. I'm going to shout, right? They get it. And we're okay with that. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying it's what they want to do. However, they might suddenly say with me, actually, you're right, with person B, when I shout, there is repercussion on the person, and I'm actually hurting them. And also, in their eyes, it's demeaning. They see me as demeaning myself. So it's not actually working in the long term. It's not building a relationship that I want. So it can be, you tease the devil in the detail out. You have a blanket, by the sound of it, belief that it doesn't matter who it is, you don't shout.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. However, I'm going to give you more devil in detail. You have to be careful, because if you add on to that shouting is something that's a failure, and then now I have a challenge on you. Because if you think about it, if you then suddenly out of the blue did shout, and you're going to now start beating yourself up potentially and thinking,
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. So that's not that helpful. So what a better belief I would suggest, and see if you resonate, is to say, if you shout, even though you don't agree with it, because all your beliefs, in my opinion, are right. If you shout, forgive yourself and say, that is a chimp system. And maybe I need to reinforce my computer system because my chimp got out there, and I'm not proud of that, because actually I don't think that helped. But I like people to understand that we can only manage the chimp system. We do not control it. And if it wants to get better of us,
wrong right there.
Wrong.
Right there.
That's the part I wanted to get to, but we can
Yeah,
keep
well,
going.
that's typical therapy there, right? That's the psychological psychiatric industry. The way we manage it and not control it is give you drugs or talk around it.
Yeah. Go to the video section of this channel, watch the testimonials, and you'll see case after case after case. I used to have this feeling. Now the feeling's gone, and it's wonderful, and I'm not held back. I'm not getting angry inappropriately. I don't no longer have a chip on my shoulder. I'm no longer anxious in this situation. I'm no longer sad when this thing happens. I no longer fear failure. I no longer feel like a loser. We're literally rewiring the chimp. You can do that. He's wrong.
And from personal experience, my wife sits around going, man, I love feeling like this.
Yeah.
And
2 sessions. Good. 2 sessions for your wife, and she tried 20 times to start a business, had a panic attack on opening day, and so tried 20 times, failed 20 times. 1 session got her unstuck, tripled her income. And then you did a session and you fixed her. She would blow up at stuff. Right? Is that right, Tim?
It was just more inadequacies, more self-esteem issues that came to the surface, anger, raging at her ballet teacher from 8 years old.
He had an angry chimp that would get. She had an angry chimp that would get triggered, and now that chimp's eating a banana.
And now she'll smile and go, hey, I'm still happy. I said, I know, it's permanent.
Yeah. You told me we've had her on the show, and she's like, wow, I'm not freaking out right now. Wow, I feel okay. And because she gets into all these situations where she normally would freak out, and now she's just calm, and she goes around the house. Wow, I feel normal. Wow, this is great. Yeah, it's our honor and pleasure to help the hundreds and hundreds of people we've helped over the years.
And notice he didn't he didn't really answer his own question, I don't think, because he was talking about, well, a better belief is understanding that you just have a chimp inside of you that just kind of got out, and you have to learn how to regulate that and forgive yourself and understand that. And I'm like, I'm okay with forgiving yourself, but I'm also like, it's almost like he's almost like describing like you have this monster inside of you that's like you have to keep caged in and you have to control it. And that's a very strenuous kind of relationship with yourself, assuming that you have to like always be in this state of like, I got to make sure this thing doesn't get out, and that's, a lot of anger will happen for people people will experience a lot of anger trying to keep themselves, from lashing out. And it's a lot easier to just tame that chimp rather than trying to like force it in its cage.
Yeah, kill that chimp. Get a new one.
The chimp is hurt and it's trying to help you and stop pain, but it has it has dysfunctional beliefs. Right. It thinks it's helping you. In reality, it's causing all sorts of problems.
Correct.
So you can change these subconscious beliefs, and now your chimp is Now the emotions that come out are a match for how you should behave, and now you're just doing much better. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All we can do is keep reinforcing the computer beliefs and strengthen them. You've done it beautifully by having a number of beliefs.
Mhm.
And then you've almost got this gang of autopilots.
Yeah.
So if one gets shaken, the others come in.
Yeah.
And that's how the brain will work. So I like more than one belief. But on the other hand, if under circumstances your chimp gets out and you shout, I want you to understand that your chimp got out. It wasn't you. That's not an excuse model. You have to apologize if you think you've done wrong. But I am saying it's a skill model, which means you says to me now, I do not want to shout. So you didn't do it. However, you're responsible. You can't just absolve yourself. So I always liken it to having a dog. I'm a great dog lover. If one of my dogs comes in here and bites you, I can't just go, it's my dog. The answer is I have to manage this system. I have to manage my dog. And it's my responsibility, 100%. So I work with people to say, be kind to yourself, because this system means business. And whatever your system is like, it will break through. There will be days you do not manage it.
Let's pretend today has been a day where I didn't manage it. The dog got off the lead and bit somebody, whatever. You know, I lost my temper, whatever. And I'm reflecting on it, thinking, oh God, you know, an hour's passed, and I'm thinking, God, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
What can I actively do to prevent it happening again? How do I reinforce that computer?
Let me go back to the dog, because it's probably the best example. What you wouldn't do, I hope, is kick the dog. Dog's doing what the dog does. You know, the dog doesn't know. So your job is to say, first, I'm going to apologize to the person, because that should not have happened. I know whatever I need to do, I compensate, I do whatever and apologize. The second thing is, naturally, I assume you're going to say, well, I need to work on the dog. I need to learn to train the dog and manage it so I know exactly how to stop that happening again. But what I'm not going to do is beat myself up for not being able to manage the dog.
Why is that a bad idea?
Beating yourself up?
Yeah. Just like, you know, oh God, I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't have done that.
It's sort of self-evident. I mean, again, this is the devil in the detail. If you said to me, you know, when I do that, it makes me feel better just to think, right, I've got to go at myself here, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm going to do is draw a line after a certain time, and then I'm going to say, right, you've had to go at yourself, get over it. Yeah, let's put that into action now. Right? Then I'm not disapproving. I think it's self-evident that I'm not going to approve of somebody beating themselves up and going back to the same thing over and over and over, and then escalating that. So it doesn't just become I can't manage the dog, I'm an incompetent person. You know, and I get things wrong, and everyone else seems to do this. What's wrong with me? That's the problem. It's now going down a very dangerous route.
Is that depositing certain evidence into the computer about you not being worthy, which then is going to make your chimp respond?
Yeah, well, the chimp's going to be irrational. So when the chimp brain takes over, because it puts our beliefs in as well as we do. So for example, the dog one, it will expand on that and say, well, there's something wrong with me. So let's go to you. You shouted, and then you start saying, you know, I'm not a great person. You know, because my belief is great people shouldn't be doing that, and it's okay giving an excuse in that's my chimp, but it's not good enough. And I can't allow it to happen again. And I've done damage to this person irreparably. And now you can say, oh, it's starting to escalate. And you're putting all these beliefs inside your system. So they're going to be unconscious beliefs that you're carrying with you. So then you go and meet some friend, and those beliefs might come straight in. Am I going to damage this person? Am I going to say something stupid again? Am I going to lose it again? This is all really destructive and unhelpful.
You know, sometimes I find it difficult to apologize. Specifically, you know, when you're like in the heat of a situation, you might have had an argument with your partner or whatever else about something tiny. In that moment, sometimes I find it difficult to apologize. I think I've gotten 10x better. I'm thinking about the last sort of confrontation I had with my girlfriend, and in fact, all I did was listen and then apologized after she'd finished speaking, because I genuinely was like, I completely understand. But I think sometimes over the last 10 years, I just think, why don't you just? What is it that's preventing you from just saying, especially when you know you've done something which isn't in line with who you want to be or how you want to behave? Why didn't I just apologize straight away? What is it?
I've got to make a guess, because I was like I said, everyone's unique. So if I'm working with you, I'll say, well, again, we're looking at what beliefs you're holding. Do you think apologizing is something that's strong or weak?
Good question. It's a good question, and I think I'm going to say that my belief on that has changed.
Okay.
So I think for over the last 10 years, the first 8 years, I would have seen it as a weakness. And then in the context of my relationship, I see it as our biggest strength, that I can both now listen in total silence, make someone feel heard and understood, and then apologize to them. I think I see it as this like real superpower that I've developed. But in the 8 years where I don't feel like I was apologizing enough, I definitely saw it as a weakness. I saw it as admitting defeat.
And that's where I'm going. So I'm saying
stop right there.
It's a shame it took 8 years.
Yeah.
That's a good stopping point. I'll tell you right now, he still finds it hard to apologize, even though his belief system's changed. And that is because he perceives pain around the apology.
Yep.
There's pain tied to it. So our brain naturally wants to avoid pain. It's actually our biggest drive is to avoid pain, because emotional or physical, because pain leads to death as far as our the ancient instinct part of our brain. One thing I want to point out is the good doctor said early on, we have thousands of these beliefs in us. And when someone comes to us, we find the ones that are causing the most problems and we fix those first. And so we get the major ones out of the way. It's different for different people. Like I've had one guy do 12 sessions with me. 80% of people, they do 2 and all their major stuff is fixed. You know, the other 20% need more. Maybe they need 5 or 3 or whatever. Doesn't mean we fix everything, and our psyche is vast. So even if you fix a major stuff and you're doing way better, you know, your chimp is behaving way better because these belief systems are deep belief systems are permanently changed. There's thousands of them. So there's always going to be little I have a few in me. They're not major. They're like 3 out of 10. You know, I just haven't cleared them. They're not that big of a deal. I clear them, then there's going to be a couple more that are, there's 2 out of 10. There's still, you know, there's a lot of them. All the major stuff, long gone. You way more confidence than I used to have, way more self-belief. Same thing, you know, with Jordan, he's done the rewiring on himself. We helped him out, you know, Carrie, etc. But there's thousands. So you're always going to have, you know, a little bit of that gremlin in you, even though we get all the big stuff out. And so it's still helpful to use cognitive behavioral therapy and other conventional therapies to manage, because you're never going to get to a point where your subconscious is just too vast, where every nook and cranny is just 100% pristine and you're just going to act optimally. You're going to have optimal, perfect programs in you. So you always are emotionally driven to behave perfectly. A lot of what's in us is, you know, when it comes to fear, anxiety, you know, our libido, that's not even, that's hardwired. So some of these, we're not going to get into a discussion of what is programmable and what's hardwired, but, you know, our fight or flight system, it's hardwired. And so there are, to some point, certain emotions we have that will always be triggered, even if you do have a perfect belief system. It's a mix of physiological, the computer, these 3 brains interacting. So you still need to learn management skills. It will still help you, but you can get that. You can fix the chimp. You guys have anything to add?
Jordan, you got anything?
You could tell by how much he kind of paused after he asked him that question. Is like, do you know, what do you think about apologizing? It's like, you could tell he was kind of, the answer was kind of implied through his pausing that, yes,
I'm better now.
Yeah, I'm better now, but it's still an issue.
Yeah. So slowly over time, you can partially rewire these deep beliefs through repetition, partially. But he's showing you right now that he has not completely rewired the beliefs of some sort of painful belief system around apologizing. That's what we do. We just quickly, one session, boom. I you know, 90% chance I 100% fix that, or Tim or Jordan 100% fixes that issue in one session. North of 90% chance we can do that. But he has partially over time through repetition telling himself, no, I prefer this belief instead. I'm going to pause and reflect. And so this is called a reframe. And it is a CBT method, or, you know, traditional therapy method. And if you constantly interrupt and say, no, I'm going down this route and feel this way, but I'm going to reframe and it means this, it doesn't mean this bad belief. Slowly over time, you can partially rewire that. That's what he's did. Is I used to believe this way, now I believe this way, but not 100%. It's because he's partially rewired that belief system through repetition, but he hasn't really dove down and do what we do and 100% fix it through super neuroplasticity, hypnosis based, etc.
And I think that method of kind of first observing the feeling and then trying to replace it or do something else with it, I think that's a good skill to have regardless.
Yeah.
But doing that, but that's a cognitive process. It requires constant energy and effort, and especially and if there's a lot of stimuli or triggers all at the same time, or they're never ending and they're constant, like that's when that method tends to become what's the right word, cumbersome, or becomes kind of exhaustive. And so like I was thinking, because remember the question he asked was, do you think it's weak to apologize? And so I think there's kind of an element of like him not wanting to seem like he's vulnerable when he apologizes. He doesn't want to seem like he's messed up. Like he wants to, I think because people that don't apologize often, I'm thinking of people in my life who very much struggle with that. Typically, they never want to admit fault because they're trying to preserve
Toxic
some
shame,
sort of
man.
narrative so that they can appear okay. And the ironic thing is oftentimes when you're able to have empathy and apologize, you actually improve the relationship. You actually improve how you look rather than decreasing it, or making yourself seem less human, I guess. But I mean, I've dealt with so many just narcissists that just they cannot apologize, or
it's too painful for them to apologize because they have so much shame in them that they can't face that. And the shame, I did something wrong, is inextricably linked to the apology. The apology, you have to admit you did something wrong.
Right.
So usually people who have a hard time apologizing, they're like, what I did was bad and I'm ashamed of it, and they don't want to face the shame. And to apologize, you are 100% facing that head on, saying, I'm sorry, I did do something bad. And because there's pain there, we naturally avoid that. But you can reprogram that shame and the subconscious belief I would put in someone to replace, I made a mistake, therefore I'm defective, wrong, bad, not good enough because I screwed up. We get that out of your subconscious, get that belief system out, and replace it with, my flaws don't make me not good enough. My flaws make me human. Welcome to the human race.
That's it. Now let me throw two last parting shots. One, keep doing what you're doing now if it's assisting you in managing the things that we're talking about, the maladaptive behaviors. Keep going your meds, keep going to therapy, those type of things until you get to one of us. Once you get to one of us and we clear trauma, then there may be an opportunity for you to talk to your other therapist and say, hey, I feel differently about this. Let's work on this other thing, or we can eliminate that because that's gone. Let's do something else. Now, next to that is, as Jordan was mentioning, there is a cognitive effort to manage and control these maladaptive behaviors. Take, for example, every diet program on the world.
Yeah.
Right? People on the keto or the carno or whatever the heck it is.
Carno, yeah.
Right. I was on carno for 3 weeks. How'd it work? Ice cream came up and, whatever happened.
It was great at first.
Right. You can cognitively overwhelm your subconscious for a short amount of time, and you will be successful in that short amount of time. But what will happen is the subconscious will win out in the long run because it is running 24/7 and 1,000 times more per second than your conscious efforts. So I'll leave those parting thoughts and we'll pick it up again next week.
Yeah. So the methods the psychiatrist uses to manage behaviors, belief systems, do it. It's useful, but by itself incomplete. Go in and fix the chimp. So and then do what he take his recommendations on top, and then you actually have a complete system. You actually need both. You need both. Absolutely. But you can fix the chimp. You can literally rewire how you feel. So Miguel, for example, has these feelings when he approaches women. We can literally fix that so that he starts approaching women again. Well, they reject him. And now he's okay. Now he literally feels different. So that's rewiring the chimp. But then, after that, he should also say, he approaches a woman, gets rejected, he should then use some cognitive tools and say, I congratulate myself for having the courage to approach her. And I understand that rejection is part of the game. It doesn't make me not good enough. So use like the cognitive reframe, but let's make it so where the set of emotions that accompany that event are now completely different. Let's do both. And so we don't just have, if we have a really bad chimp, a really big gremlin in us, we don't just have to learn how to manage it. We can actually go in and rewire it to a great degree, not 100%, but to a really great degree, rewire it, and then use these other tools too. And when you do that, you're literally transforming who you are, upgrading who you are, transforming your life. And then you will know what over the years, Jordan, Tim, and I have come to know, which is you really do have more power over yourself, your situation, your path in life. You really do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thanks for listening in.